We are heading into week 14 of the Big 12 football season. Welcome in. I'm Pete Mundo. Heartland College Sports is how you find us covering the Big 12. We're glad you're here, and all we ask of you is to leave a like on the video. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Same thing on the podcast, a 5-star rating and review. And thank you, as always, to our radio affiliates for being here as a part of the show. I'll give you a preview and a prediction for every single Big 12 game coming up in week 14 of the college football season. So let's start off with KU taking on Utah. This is a Friday game in Lawrence. Utah right now is favored by 12.5 points. And the problem here for KU is that they allow bad run teams to run on them. Iowa State, middle of the pack team against on the ground, and they gashed KU last week for 220 plus yards. Now you get a team like Utah that is absolutely dominant on the ground. They're the best rushing team in the Big 12, 280 yards per game on the ground. How do you think that's going to go against this KU run defense? It's going to be ugly. And that's exactly what we're going to get on Friday in this one. So most teams are averaging more rushing yards against Kansas than they do throughout the season. They beat their averages against KU. I went back and I looked up the last bunch of games, and on average, KU is allowing teams to rush for more yards per game than that team usually runs for in a given week. So I've got a Utah team that had the scare of the season last week against K-State. Needs a win, a big win, a convincing win to keep itself in contention for a college football playoff, and maybe still, with it being the first game on Friday, end up playing for a Big 12 championship. There's still a way they can backdoor their way in. So you look at that and you say to yourself, okay, what are we going to do about it? I think Utah's going to come out and absolutely manhandle KU in this game. They got the wake-up call they needed. They need a Tech loss plus Arizona State and BYU wins. So I'm not saying it's likely. I'm not suggesting Tech is going to lose to West Virginia, but they're still in the hunt, right? They're still in the hunt. And you look at Bird Ficklin, what he can do on the ground, backing up Dampier, and this team has a lot going for it right now. They are right up there with, I believe, the best of the best in the Big 12. And, yeah, they had a rough game against K-State, but they came back, they won it, they took care of business. And I know that KU is in a spot where they're playing for bowl eligibility, but I don't think they've got the horses. I don't. They've lost 2 in a row. They got crushed at Iowa State last week. Now they're home. It's senior day. There'll be a lot of pomp and circumstance. I just believe that Utah is on a different level. And that's going to be very noticeable in this game coming up on Friday. So I'm going to take Utah to cover the 12.5 points. I'm going to take Utah to win the game 35-20 over KU and cover that 12.5 points and put themselves in a position where they can go out there and they can potentially end up playing for a Big 12 championship game and maybe, who knows, get their way into a college football playoff. We'll have to see. Pete Mundo on Heartland College Sports. Glad you're here. Please make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Next up, we'll go to the Territorial Cup, Arizona at Arizona State. This game is on Friday night. It is a top 25 matchup between these two teams. I love this rivalry for the Big 12. I think it's in that second tier of rivalries in the Big 12 Conference. When you look at it, it's not BYU, Utah, but I'd say it's on par with KU, K-State, Baylor, TCU. I think it's in that second tier, and now it's a top 25 matchup. So this is fantastic. And Arizona State still has a chance to make a Big 12 championship game. They need help, but still, they're in the mix. But Arizona's playing great defense. Here's what this game's going to come down to. Arizona State's pass rush, which is second in the Big 12, versus Arizona, which is 15th in the Big 12 in sacks allowed in the league. You know me. I have been all over Arizona the last few weeks. I'm a big fan of Arizona. I love what Brent Brennan's doing with this team. The pass defense is great. The 1-2 rushing attack is fantastic. Amadi and Risano. So I like this team a lot. I just think Arizona State's a bad matchup for them, especially with Arizona State being at home and still having a chance to make a Big 12 championship game. So Arizona State's elite pass rush, I think, is going to get to Fafita. And then you also have Arizona needing to really win this game through the air. They're not going to win it on the ground. As much as I like their rushing attack, Arizona State is second against the run in the Big 12. So Arizona's going to have to drop back. They're going to have to get the passing game going. And I believe that sets up for Arizona State to have a good night rushing the passer. And then the other thing, in a close game, in a rivalry game on the road, I saw this stat and I was like, well, that's definitely concerning for me here. Look at this. Arizona dead last in the Big 12 in field goals. 16 of 26, 61% on field goals this season. In a game that could be lower scoring, in a rivalry game on the road, I think the kicking game is going to matter. And Arizona's not been good in that category this season. Dead last in the Big 12. So I'm going to roll with Arizona State at home as a 1.5-point underdog, winning the game over Arizona by a final of 27-24. That's Arizona State keeping itself in contention for a Big 12 championship game appearance, trying to defend their title. They get the win. I think Jeff Sims will have a good day running the ball in particular. He'll get it going, and Arizona State will eke out a win at home in what is going to be a great Territorial Cup and an outstanding rivalry on Friday night. Pete Mundo with you. It's great to have you here. Please make sure you are subscribed, as always, to the channel. We cover the Big 12. We're glad you're here. Let's go to Texas Tech on the road against West Virginia, shall we? All right. So Texas Tech is obviously a massive favorite. 24.5 points on the road against the Mountaineers. The question here is a simple one. Is Texas Tech fired up? Does Texas Tech feel like it's just got to get out of here with the win, keep guys healthy, and get to a Big 12 championship, which is all they have to do? Or do they say, we've got to impress the committee? That's the question. It's not about whether or not they're going to win the game. Okay, it's not. Although I do think it's going to be electric there in Morgantown. I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be an underrated environment going into this one. And everybody is riding Texas Tech. And I've gotten killed betting against Texas Tech so far this season. Well, really the last few weeks, I've been getting killed betting against Texas Tech. And you guys have let me know, okay? So this is a feel pick as much as anything else. That's what this is. It's a feel pick. It's a gut pick. And it's basically telling my Tech friends that I'm not going to let you guys bully me ever again. I am not going to sit here and let you tell me that, hey, Pete, you never picked the Red Raiders. Shame on you. I'm picking them. All right, I'm picking them. I think it's going to be a big week. They're coming off a bye. I think they want to end the season on a high note. And I'm looking at a 23.5-point spread and saying, you know what? Why the heck not? Why not? I mean, West Virginia does an okay job stopping the run. They're all right against the run. But where they really struggle is against the pass. And that's where I think the Red Raiders are going to have themselves a very big day against the run. West Virginia is 15th in the Big 12 against the pass. And I feel pretty good about Barry Morton and that offense getting itself going. My only fear is that Tech starts pulling some of the starters in the second half and West Virginia potentially gets a backdoor cover. That's entirely possible, as you guys well know. But I'm not going to sit here and say it's likely. So I'm going to say that West Virginia, who wants to run the ball, is going to have a very difficult time against Texas Tech's number one rush defense in the Big 12. And then they're also going to have themselves a whale of a time trying to figure out what to do when it comes to just the Texas Tech offense in general. And then you talk about how well Texas Tech gets to the quarterback. Oof. West Virginia is 13th in the Big 12 in protecting the quarterback. They've given up 27 sacks in 11 games. Tech is number one when it comes to sacks in the Big 12. So I think that all in all, Texas Tech's in for a big afternoon. Give me the Red Raiders winning this game by a final of something like, I'll say 42-14 and covering that number. There you go. There you have it. Pete Mundo on Heartland College Sports. Houston at Baylor. Houston is a 2.5-point underdog in this game. So Baylor is near the bottom of the Big 12 in turnover margin. They're near the bottom of FBS. I'm sorry, they're like 130th in all of college football in turnover margin this year. They're terrible. They're 15th against the run. They're 15th in sacks. They do not do anything all that well except for pass the ball. And I know Houston's going on the road, and I know it's been a disappointing month of November for Houston football fans. But I'll tell you what, Houston is a better road team than they are a home team. Look at these numbers. Baylor is 2-9 against the spread this season. Houston is 7-4 against the spread so far this season. But Houston is 4-1 on the road against the spread. They're a better team on the road against the number than they are at home, which tells you a lot. So I'm looking at the game, and I'm saying to myself, all right, I've got Houston as an underdog. I think they're the better team. Baylor's a mess. They're a mess. They're keeping Dave Aranda. No one's quite sure why, but they're going to roll with them and I guess see how it goes next year. Spent a lot of money, got guys in there, and it's been a total disaster. But all Baylor does is pass the ball really well. That's kind of it. That's what they do. And that's fine, but it's not enough to win a lot of games in this conference. It's just not. So they've got a Houston team that's been solid against the pass so far this season. Not great, but they're, top half of the Big 12 against the pass. So they've been in a very good spot so far this year against what Baylor's really only strength is. And I think we'll see more of that coming up on Saturday. So I'm going to take the underdog. I'm going to roll with with Houston as the underdog plus the 2.5 points. And ultimately, I think they'll win the game outright. And I think that Houston's going to be a team that, you know what? I know that this month did not go as planned. Houston entered the month of November, and they were eyeing maybe a trip to the Big 12 championship game. That's obviously not going to happen. Losses to West Virginia and TCU really hurt them. But this is still going to be a very successful season if they finish up going 9-3. And that's what they're looking at right now, if they can win this game. And Baylor, it's just been a mess of a season, and I can't say I'm surprised by it at all. I didn't have them in the Big 12 championship. Some of you might have. I didn't have them in the Big 12 championship. I thought they were getting too much hype, and now it looks like that's exactly what's going on. Thanks for being here on Heartland College Sports. Let's keep it going and talk about Colorado on the road against Kansas State. This may be a Snowmageddon game coming up this weekend. We may have lots of the white stuff coming down in Manhattan. So this can either go one of two ways, right? It either means, one, it's a very close game, and it's a game that ends up being sloppy and close and chaotic, and you can't see the field, and one of those games. Think about that Iowa State K-State game a couple of years back in the snow. I think Iowa State won that 42-35. Could be like that. Or it could be a Colorado team that's just totally worn down, done with the season, going up against a K-State team that almost pulled off the upset against Utah last week, coming home. Head coach was emotional after the game, and they're going to close this season on a high note. Which one of those is it going to be? I lean to the latter. I lean towards a game where Chris Kleiman and the Wildcats figured something out last week. They want to send out their seniors on a high note. It's been an emotional week in Manhattan. Chris Kleiman's the guy. He's not going anywhere. And they go out there and they light it up. And Colorado, as a team, is kind of sitting there and thinking to themselves, you know what? We just want the season to be over. Would that shock you at all? Wouldn't shock me. And that's where I see this game going coming up on Saturday afternoon. I think that K-State is going to be motivated. I think that Kleiman's got these guys coming out of last week feeling better about themselves, even though I know they lost the game. And, you look at a Colorado team that just doesn't do anything all that well. They just don't. And if they're going to get anything going, it's got to be through the air with Juju Lewis. And if it's snowing out, I don't like their odds. They can't run the ball. They're second to last in the Big 12 in rushing yards per game. They don't get any push up front. And they won't against Kansas State either. So they got to pass the ball. And if it's going to be snowing, how's that going to go? I don't like their chances. So I think that K-State ends up winning this game pretty big. Right now you've got a 16.5-point spread in this one. And I'm going to roll with Kansas State winning this game by a final of 35-17. Wildcats take care of business against the Colorado Buffaloes. Pete Mundo on Heartland College Sports. Let's go to Iowa State on the road against Oklahoma State. Hey, the Cowboys have covered 3 straight games. Don't look now. They've got a new head coach in Eric Morris. Good for them. Are those guys going to be motivated? Or are they going to be sitting there and saying to themselves, you know what? I don't even know if I'm going to be here next year. Time for me to put on a show and maybe move on. That remains to be seen. We'll have to see how it plays out. But Iowa State got a big win against KU last week at home. And I think that Oklahoma State, while they're playing a little bit better, the spread has now gotten to the point where there's not as much value on the Cowboys here. Yeah, they covered. They were winning last week against UCF. That was more of a UCF problem. Iowa State is coming off a game where Rocco Becht had his best game in 2 months. He's now going up against a defense that has left a lot to be desired this season. The Cowboys are dead last against the pass in the Big 12. They're dead last in defensive efficiency as well. So they do not stop the pass at all. That worked out well for Oklahoma State against UCF because UCF is not a team that really wants to throw the ball. They're a run-first team, right? Iowa State's not. Rocco Becht has a lot of weapons, and he's going to showcase those weapons coming up in this game on Saturday. So I think that Iowa State is a great matchup here for Oklahoma State. And the only way you can say, hey, Oklahoma State's got a chance is if you're of the belief that Oklahoma State's going to be basically playing for Eric Morris and they want to showcase themselves. But that's not really how it goes anymore in college football, right? Most of these guys are probably going to be in the portal. They're going to be obviously pitching themselves elsewhere, and maybe a few of them return. I mean, who really knows? But it's not like the old days where you're getting a new coach and the guys want to impress the new coach who's going to be coming in. It's just not how it goes anymore. So it's a different world in college football in terms of why guys might be motivated in a situation like this. But I think Iowa State's going to overwhelm the Cowboys. The spread is respectable enough for Oklahoma State that you should take Iowa State minus the points. I see it's Iowa State minus 14.5. I'd buy the half a point. That's what I would do. I'd just buy it, get it to 14 just to be safe. But I'll go Iowa State winning this game in Stillwater on Saturday by a final of, I think it's going to be a pretty big win, 38-21, covering the 14 points by the half a point just to be safe. You don't want 38-24 and then you're like, dang it, Pete, what'd you do to me? So go with the 14 by the half a point if you have to. Pete Mundo on Heartland College Sports. Glad you're here joining us as always. Let's talk about UCF and BYU. Well, this is a big game for BYU. Win, obviously, 11-1, going to a Big 12 championship game. And it's a UCF team that obviously wants to get it going on the ground. That's what they want to do. That's where their bread and butter is. And they are going up against a BYU team that doesn't allow a lot on the ground. They just don't. They're third in the Big 12 in rushing yards allowed per game at $126, only behind Texas Tech and Arizona State. UCF is not a team that's going to beat you through the air. That's not what they're going to do. That's not how they win games. They did it last week in that second half. They had to throw the ball against Oklahoma State, but Oklahoma State is just bad against the pass. BYU's not. They're top half on the Big 12 against the pass as well, and their defensive efficiency is 4th in the league. You've got a BYU team that I still think has a chip on its shoulder, is in a spot where they know they've got to impress the committee, and they can't afford to go out there and have a close game against UCF. They just can't. And if they win, they're going to the Big 12 championship game. So there's a lot on the line here for BYU. They know that. And I believe they'll have success getting to the quarterback as well, Taven Jackson. I think UCF is going to try to be creative with their running game. I just don't think it's going to be enough. And I like BYU taking care of business here in what will be a pretty solid victory. It's a 10 a.m. kickoff local time, or 11 a.m. kickoff local time, in Salt Lake City. So maybe it is 10. Let me see. Hold on. What? Yeah? All right. It'll be 11 o'clock local time kickoff on Saturday. So I think that favors BYU with the early start as well at home. They have everything on the line in this game, and they will take care of business, and they will beat up on UCF. And I'll go a final here for BYU over the Knights of 41-17. BYU gets the big win, covers the 17, and takes care of business to get to a Big 12 championship game coming up next week in Arlington. That's going to be fun. Last but not least, it is Cincinnati on the road against TCU. So this is an intriguing game here. A lot of people are on Cincinnati. I'm looking at some of the numbers here, and I'm like, wow, the bettors are loving Cincinnati. 80% of the bets coming in on Cincinnati, and I think that's a mistake. Okay? I'm looking at this TCU team, and I'm saying, they're inconsistent, but they're at home, final game of the season, trying to end up with an 8-4 record against a Cincinnati team that has lost 3 in a row and has just struggled against the better competition in the Big 12 so far this season. That's what's happened. And you've got a TCU passing attack that is one of the best in the Big 12, number 2 behind Baylor, going up against a Cincinnati pass defense that is 12th in the league. And the defensive efficiency for Cincinnati is 13th in the Big 12. What does Cincinnati really want to do? They want to get it going on the ground. I mean, Sorsby's been solid through the air, but they also want to get it going on the ground. Pryor and Walker and those guys. And, TCU, underrated, they've actually done a pretty good job against the run so far this season, ranking 5th in the Big 12 against the run so far this year. So they've done a good job. Where they have been more vulnerable is against the pass, where they are 14th in the league. So this sets up pretty well for TCU at home against the Cincinnati Bearcats. And I'm seeing that spread right now at -4 in this game, and I think TCU is going to cover. I like TCU at home, 31-24 over Cincinnati, getting it done and closing out the season with a win. I'm Pete Mundo on Heartland College Sports. Thank you guys for being here. If you noticed, I'm a little under the weather here in this one, but you know what? We got to bring you the goods. So thank you. Drop a like on the video. We so appreciate you doing that. And make sure that you are subscribed to the channel as well as we get set for the final weekend of the regular season in the Big 12. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. Go Big 12.